The survey ship had crashed 3 kilometers from the outpost, carving a black scar across the red Martian soil. Marcus Webb trudged through the thin atmosphere in his environmental suit, following the distress beacon that pulsed weakly on his scanner. He was supposed to be cataloging mineral deposits, not playing rescue worker, but the automated systems had picked up the signal during his morning sweep. The wreckage was worse than he expected. Metal fragments jutted from the ground like broken teeth, and the main hull had split open like overripe fruit. Marcus approached cautiously, checking for radiation signatures or fuel leaks. His suit readings came back clean enough, so he moved closer to investigate. That was when he heard the sound. It was half growl, half whimper, coming from beneath a collapsed section of hull plating. Marcus grabbed his portable jack and began levering the metal aside. The sound grew louder, more desperate. When he finally pulled the plate free, he stumbled backward. The creature beneath was like nothing he had ever seen. She was roughly humanoid, perhaps 2 meters tall, with silvery fur covering most of her body. Her face was an unsettling blend of human and lupine features, with a pronounced muzzle and ears that lay flat against her skull. Her eyes, brilliant amber and slitted like a cat's, fixed on him with obvious pain and fear. One of her legs was trapped beneath another piece of debris, bent at an angle that made Marcus wince. "Easy," he said, knowing she probably could not understand him. "I'm going to help you." Those amber eyes tracked his every movement as he worked the jack under the debris. When he finally freed her leg, she snarled, baring sharp canines. But she did not attack. Instead, she tried to stand and immediately collapsed. The leg was definitely broken. Marcus made a decision that would change his life. He keyed his comm. "Base, this is Webb. I've got a survivor from the crash. Non-human. Injured. Requesting medical clearance to bring her in." The response was immediate and negative. Quarantine protocols. Unknown biological hazards. Wait for the proper containment team. Marcus looked at the alien woman shivering in the Martian cold, her ship's environmental systems clearly failing. The containment team would take hours to arrive. He switched off his comm. "This is probably stupid," he muttered, pulling out his emergency medical kit. The alien watched him with those unsettling eyes as he approached. When he tried to examine her leg, she snapped at him, but weakly. Marcus moved slowly, talking in what he hoped was a soothing tone, and eventually managed to apply a temporary splint. Getting her back to the outpost was a nightmare. She was heavy, and the Martian gravity did only so much to help. By the time he dragged her through the airlock, Marcus was exhausted. He set her down in his quarters, the only place he could think of that had not been designed with containment protocols in mind. The alien woman lay on his floor, panting. Her fur was matted with something that might have been blood, darker than human blood, and faintly luminescent. Marcus sealed the door and removed his helmet, then grabbed his first aid supplies. "Okay," he said. "Let's see what I can do." Over the next hour, he cleaned and bandaged her wounds as best he could. She growled and whimpered, but seemed to understand he was trying to help. When he offered her water, she lapped it from his cupped hands, her tongue rough like a cat's. She ate the protein bars he provided with desperate hunger. Finally, exhausted, Marcus sat back against the wall. The alien watched him, her breathing steadier now. Then, to his complete shock, she dragged herself across the floor toward him. Before he could react, she pressed her muzzle against his neck and inhaled deeply. "Whoa, hey," Marcus said, gently pushing her back. "Personal space?" But she was persistent. She made a sound that was almost a purr, then curled up against his side, her head resting on his lap. One clawed hand gripped his arm with surprising gentleness. Within moments, she was asleep. Marcus sat frozen, afraid to move. What had he gotten himself into? The next morning, everything got more complicated. The alien woman was awake before him, and when he opened his eyes, she was sitting up, watching him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Her leg looked better already, the swelling reduced. Accelerated healing, he guessed. Morning, he said awkwardly. She made a sound, somewhere between a bark and a word. Then she pointed at herself and said something that sounded like, "Kira?" Marcus repeated. The alien nodded eagerly, her tail, which he had not noticed before, wagging slightly. "I'm Marcus." "Marcus," she attempted, the syllables strange in her mouth. Over the following days, they developed a basic communication system. Kira was intelligent, learning words quickly. Marcus learned that her people, the Lupari, were explorers and traders who traveled the outer systems. Her ship had been damaged by a debris strike, forcing an emergency landing. But there was something else, something Kira kept trying to communicate that Marcus did not understand. She would touch him constantly, staying close, making that purring sound whenever he was near. She brought him things, little gifts from around his quarters. She even tried to feed him, pushing food toward his mouth with obvious pleasure when he accepted. It was Tom, his fellow researcher who he finally allowed into his quarters after 4 days, who figured it out. "Mate," Tom said flatly, staring at Kira, who was currently grooming Marcus's hair with her claws. "She thinks you're her mate." "What?" Marcus tried to pull away, but Kira held him firmly. "That's ridiculous. You saved her life, yeah?" Tom said, "You took care of her when she was vulnerable. You've been living together, sharing food and space." "Marcus, in her culture, that probably means you're bonded." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "But I was just helping her. Try explaining that to her." Over the next week, Marcus attempted to make Kira understand the situation. But every time he tried to create distance, she became distressed, whimpering and pacing. Her leg had healed completely by then, thanks to her species' remarkable biology, but she showed no interest in leaving. When he tried to explain about going home, about her people, she simply pressed closer and said, "Home, here, Marcus." The situation became even more complicated when a Lupari ship arrived in orbit, responding to Kira's distress beacon. They landed with proper diplomatic protocols, and Marcus expected Kira to leave immediately. Instead, she stood in front of him, her posture protective, and addressed her people in rapid barks and growls. The Lupari captain, a larger male with darker fur, listened and turned to Marcus. He spoke in heavily accented but understandable English. "She says you are her mate," the captain said. "She says you saved her, cared for her, showed her kindness when your people would have left her in quarantine. She says she chooses to stay with you." Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Kira, who gazed back at him with those amber eyes full of hope and affection. In the weeks they had spent together, he had grown fond of her in ways he had not quite acknowledged. Her loyalty, her intelligence, her strange but genuine displays of affection. She had made him laugh with her attempts to understand human customs. She had kept him company in the lonely outpost. She had trusted him completely. "What happens if she stays?" Marcus asked quietly. The captain's expression was unreadable. "Among my people, bonds are sacred. If she has chosen you, we will not force her to leave. But understand, human, that this is a serious commitment in our culture. She has claimed you. You will be expected to honor that bond." Marcus thought about his lonely life on Mars, about the endless days of cataloging rocks and filing reports. He thought about Kira's warmth against his side at night, her excitement when teaching him words in her language, the way she looked at him like he was the most important person in the universe. "I need to understand something," Marcus said. "In your culture, what does being mates actually mean?" The captain's ears perked forward. "Partnership, loyalty, protection. walking through life together, facing challenges as one. It is not so different from your human concept, I think. Marcus looked at Kira again. She was trembling slightly, waiting for his answer. He knew this was crazy. He knew there would be complications, bureaucratic nightmares, cultural misunderstandings. But he also knew that he had not felt this connected to another being in years. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay." Kira's ears shot up, her tail wagging furiously. She bounded forward and wrapped her arms around him, nearly knocking him over. The purring sound she made was loud enough to vibrate his chest. The Lupari captain made a sound that might have been approval or amusement. "I will inform our family," the captain said, "and I will leave you appropriate cultural materials. You have much to learn about being a Lupari mate, human." After the Lupari departed, Marcus sat in his quarters with Kira curled against him. She was teaching him words in her language, patient and encouraging. Outside, the Martian sunset painted the sky in shades of amber that matched her eyes. "This is insane," Marcus said to the empty room. Kira looked up at him and grinned, showing all her sharp teeth. "Mark us home," she said firmly. Kira home, together. And somehow, that was exactly right.